Here we are back at the AGA. Before you put the burner base back into the bottom of the AGA, it's worth just cleaning out in there, make sure there's no deposits in there, so that the base sits nice and clean. Do it with a hoover like this, and also this tube sucks in an awful lot of dust and fluff, and it's worth just passing the vacuum all the way inside just to clean these out. And while you've got the hoover on the go, do the doors and things like that. Anywhere you can see dust build up. Okay, here we are back at the AGA, and we're ready to reassemble the burner in the bottom. And we've cleaned out the debris from the bottom, and it's just a case of carefully putting this back in so that we don't damage the wicks. It's a little bit tight, but it goes in like that. All the way back in, and connect up the oil pipe where it was. Just tighten up, hit that up finger tight first, like that, and then get the burner back to the position it was, so that this little cutout in the fire door covers the pipe, goes over the pipe nicely, like that. That's fine. Tighten the union back up. That's it. Now, as long as the plate is sitting properly in there and not rocking, and I use a little shim underneath it just to make sure that's okay. That's in, that's back in, fine. Door close is okay. The burner's back in the bottom now. There we are. That's back in place, sitting nice and centrally in the chamber. And if you are doing this from scratch, you need to check that that burner is flat. And you do that with a small spirit level, just to check that it's level both ways. The spirit level, something like this. Put it one way, put it the other way, make sure it's flat. If it's not, you can use the adjusting screws at the bottom of the burner to adjust it. These can be accessed through here, and you can see the bolts at the bottom that stick up vertically, and they are the ones that you adjust the level with. Also, if you really wanted to check the oil level properly, when the burner is full of oil, it should be 3/16 of an inch deep in the centre. So leave the wicks out and take the centre out, fill it up, turn it back on, let it fill up for about 15 minutes and check the level of the oil. If you're just servicing the AGA, there should be no need for this. It should be ready to go and need no adjustment at all. So we're going to assemble the rings now. Just worth brushing these off with a soft wire brush before you assemble them, and I'll get that done now. There's no top and bottom on these rings except for the outer ring, this one here, because it has a little flap where you access the wick to light it. So when you put these on, put them over the wick. Just make sure you don't trap the wick in doing it, and when it's on, just make sure it rotates and is sitting properly in the burner base so that it's nice and square. And then when they're all in place, this top plate goes back on top of the burner, and then the baffle plate also goes back on, making sure you put it back on in the same place. And this has to sit central on the burner, on top of the burner like that. Otherwise, if it's too far one way, heat will escape the wrong side. If it's too far the other way, you'll get too much heat going that way and it won't be even. Here we go. I'll move my tripod back over. Support the weight like that. This is heavy, so be very careful. We don't want to drop it down inside the AGA now. That would be a disaster. Nicely over the middle. And away we go. This is quite easy doing it like this. If you can kneel on top of the AGA, it's alright. It is very, very heavy. And as you're dropping this back down, just make sure that you don't pinch the insulation under the hot plate. Like that. That's nicely in place. And this can be removed. I like to just shuffle these about a little bit, just to make sure that it's seated properly. And we can put the ring back on and make sure that that is central again. Like that. That should be fine. Put the bung in. Job done. So there we are, AGA all assembled, back together again. There's nothing too complicated about it, just be methodical. You don't need to have masses of equipment, ordinary toolkit, no problem. That's a basic service on the AGA. What we have to do now, of course, is turn the oil back on the controller and just make sure that it's on. That's the off position. Turn it fully on. Leave it for 15 minutes now for the burner to fill back up with oil before you try and light it. Then once it's lit, I generally turn mine down about halfway, let it build up temperature, and then regulate it to where it was when it was running before. Job done. Okay, about 15 minutes has passed since we turned on the oil, and I've lit the burner now by just lifting that little plate and lighting it with a match, and that's it. And then as soon as it's lit, we just need to close the doors so that it gets the right air mixture through it, and there we are. It's worth checking the oil pipe into the burner after the 15 minutes just to make sure there are no leaks. Check anywhere that there are no leaks, otherwise do not light it. Make sure you cured every leak before it's lit. And I've turned the regulator back down now to about halfway, and just till it gains a bit of heat, and then I'll turn it back down to where it ran before. Don't mess about with this controller. If it was working fine before, leave it. There is a filter in the bottom which should be cleaned now and again, but I haven't cleaned this one in about 10 years, and if your oil tank's clean, that should be fine. If the oil level in the burner needs adjusting so that it's 3/16 of an inch deep, then the mounting plate here has two Allen-headed grub screws in it which secure this rod at the top that supports the boiler. If you slacken those off, you can move the controller up and down very slightly just to get the right level But as I say, if it was working alright before, leave it. Only adjust it if the oil level is wrong, and that's it.